Welcome to Northbridge High School's Curriculum Night. We wanted to try something a little bit different this year. Usually you come in, there's a quick presentation, go right to classrooms. We wanted to give you all some education about vaping. As you know, as you see in the news pretty much every night now, vaping has become a real epidemic. It's something we need to take very seriously. I would be remiss if I said that we don't have an issue with it here at Northbridge High School, because we do. We have students who are vaping every day. We have students who are getting caught weekly, and we're concerned about their health and their safety. So we're hoping tonight that we answer some of your questions about vaping, what it's actually doing to your teen's body, and ways that we can educate your kids and also get them help they need it. So I want to call up an old friend of mine. Her name is Tina Grasowski. She is the project coordinator for the Central Mass Tobacco-Free Community, and she's also a member of the UMass Medical School Department of Psychiatry staff. So without further ado, Tina.
Thank you so much. You all hear me in the back there? Great. So as Tim said, my name is Tina Grasowski. I coordinate the Central Mass Tobacco-Free Community Partnership. It's a program at UMass Medical School funded by the State Department of Public Health. And tonight we're going to talk about the new look of nicotine. And I'm sure you've heard in the news what's been going on. I'm going to talk about that as we go along. We're going to talk about why we're here, what's going on, kind of a vaping 101, what the industry is doing, which is the really important piece here, what policies and procedures are already in place, and then even really more importantly, what you can do as parents and what you can do here in your community to work on this issue. Okay, and please feel free to raise your hand, ask questions as we go along, or you can ask at the end. I'm going to go pretty quickly because I know you're on a time crunch tonight. We have some data from the State Youth Risk Behavior Survey. The problem with this data is it's really low because it was taken in the spring of 2017, really before the whole vaping, juuling epidemic started taking off. So we think probably more middle school is 20% of kids at middle school are ever trying this, and probably 15% are using it on a regular basis. So this data is low. Same thing for high school. Probably 30% of high school students are using these vaping products on a regular basis, okay? And 45% have ever tried it. Of course, this isn't a Northbridge problem. This is a Massachusetts problem. This is a national problem, as you've been hearing on the news. And in 2018, nationally, the use of electronic cigarettes, vaping products by teens went up 78%. So people are really paying attention to it now. And of course, what you've seen in the news, people are really paying attention to it. Well, so what are we talking about? All vaping products, all electronic cigarettes are a device that has a battery in it and a device that holds a cartridge of nicotine that's in a substance called polypropylene glycol. Polypropylene glycol is like vegetable oil. When you heat it up, because you turn on the battery and it heats up the device, it's kind of like using spray Pam on your skillet at home. That very fine mist of oil, that's when it's heated up. So when you're using the vape, a Juul, or any other electronic product, you're inhaling that oil with the nicotine into your lungs. There's lots of different names of them, lots of different kinds, different sizes, they have different prices. Disposable e-cigarettes are what teens used to be using. Some kids do use them, but most teens are using the high-tech devices. Vape pens are usually mostly used for vaping liquid THC, which, as you know, is the active ingredient in marijuana. Lots of teenagers are using these devices and others to vape liquid THC. And we'll talk more about that. You get them online or in a pot shop. Pot's legal now in Massachusetts, marijuana. You get it at the dispensary or at the recreational marijuana stores, and you can buy cartridges of THC or online. The big tank systems teenagers don't use. On the right are the electronic rechargeable devices. On the right is the Juul, which we'll talk about. On the left is sort of a knockoff in that colorful sleeve, because you can get sleeves and accessories to decorate your products with. So Juul, which you've I'm sure heard about in the news, came out from two Silicon Valley high-tech guys. They wanted a device to help adults quit smoking. For adults to quit smoking, it's really successful at delivering a hit of nicotine. It's not so successful at actually helping people to quit smoking, and that's a whole other conversation. But for the nicotine is a solution of nicotine salts. It delivers a big hit really quickly to the brain, which mimics the hit of nicotine that you get if you're a smoker. And remember, tonight we're talking about teens and teen use of vaping devices, not adults. The Juul, which looks like a flash drive itself, actually has a USB that you put it into the laptop or computer where you charge it up, okay? Once it's charged up, you do not have to turn it on and off switch. It's already ready to go. And then you put in the flavor pod, which you see here. There's 4 flavor pods there, different colors representing different flavors, right? And you put the pod into the device, and then it's ready to go, and you inhale, and you get the heated, vaporized solution of propylene glycol with the nicotine in it. A lot of teenagers use Juul because that's the cool thing to do, right? That's how it started. The problem is that the hit of nicotine, each pod of the Juul is equivalent nicotine to a pack of cigarettes. In nicotine content, a pack of cigarettes. Most teens tell us that they go through a Juul pod a day, if not more. Okay, so that's a lot of nicotine for anybody. It's a lot of nicotine for an adolescent brain. Lots of different flavors, lots of different devices. And new devices are coming out all the time. Okay, I just saw one that looked like an Apple Watch. The watch screen, you flip that out, and that's becomes an electronic device. The one on the bottom looks like a cell phone, and you flip it open, and it turns into an electronic device. Most teens like the Juul because it is disguisable. It's small. It looks like a flash drive. And, you know, mom and dad are not really paying attention. It can be sitting out on the desk at home or in the desk at school. And unless teachers have been trained, they are not trained to see it, right? Also, the nicotine that is in the device when it's heated up and produces the vapor that you see if you use an electronic cigarette. Again, if you're an adult and you use electronic cigarette to quit smoking, good for you that you've gotten off of combustible cigarettes. There's nothing worse for you than combustible cigarettes. But if you're still using electronic cigarette, it's really hard to quit, you may have noticed, because you're getting a lot of nicotine, and it's hard to quit nicotine. That's what we're talking about, is addiction to nicotine, right? So the other problem is that what else is in this Juul device, or the other nicotine delivery devices, is the flavoring. That's the most attractive piece for young people. If you can, get a hit of something that tastes like mango, mint, cherry, pina colada, banana sundae, there's thousands of flavors. How are they getting that flavor into the Juul? Is this fresh mango juice from Market Basket? This is a chemical. It's called diacetyl. And diacetyl is what used to be used in the microwave popcorn industry until the FDA came in and said, no, you can't use diacetyl anymore because the workers were getting sick. Have you ever heard of the expression popcorn lung? Popcorn lung was the syndrome that the workers were getting because they were working in a factory where they were using the heated up diacetyl to make that incredible buttery flavor of popcorn. So the FDA said, no, you can't use that anymore, but where are they using it? In all of these electronic cigarettes, because these are not regulated by the FDA except for some age restrictions. And you've probably seen that in the news, right? That's the issue right now, is whether or not the FDA is going to come in and regulate these products. So you have the heated diacetyl, you have the heated propylene glycol, and you have the nicotine. all going into the adolescent brain. And the adolescent brain is still developing, right? Till the age 24, 25. If you introduce nicotine into the growing brain, it becomes addicted much more quickly because the brain is still growing. The molecules of nicotine adhere to the brain and neurotransmitters as they grow, and it forms this pathway of addiction. So if you start smoking in your 20s after you've developed, your brain has finished developing, you will not get addicted in the same way as if you start smoking if you're 13 or 14 or 15. That's true. All the research proves that with smokers. It's true, the same thing with vaping. We know that it interrupts learning. If you go into the bathroom every hour on the hour and getting a hit of Juul, that nicotine is buzzing you up, right? And you're not able to focus, you're not able to pay attention. And we also know that you can pass along other germs if you're sharing your Juul, and actual viruses that have been found to grow in the device itself, okay? We know that e-cigarettes are not safe for pregnant women, and they're not safe for teens either. We need more research on the secondhand vape that comes out. You all know secondhand smoke is just as harmful to you as combustible cigarettes if you smoke them yourself. There's no doubt about that, right? Everybody in here knows that. How many people in here grew up in a family and you have relatives that were affected by tobacco-related illness? Grandparents, parents, hold them up high, yeah, grandparents. So easily half of the room. The same is going to be true of young people on nicotine. We know, as I said before, that you can vape other substances, and that's of real concern because many kids are either altering the products that they buy. If you go online and say, how do I turn my Juul into a vape pen? You can get instructions on the web how to turn your Juul into a vaping device for liquid THC. Or if you find somebody old enough, you can purchase these devices at the pot shop, or you can go online and purchase them. Liquid THC has no smell to it. This is not like when you were young or you went to college and everybody smoked marijuana, and that smell of marijuana, that does not exist with these vaping devices. So teens are using them at school, in the back of the classroom or in the bathrooms, and teachers or administrators do not know because there is no smell, okay? There's no smell. Teens think there's nothing wrong with marijuana because it's a plant. So they think that it's safe. It's not safe, right? It also disrupts learning. How do you know if your students are using this? How do you know if your teens are using this? You should certainly talk to them. The nicotine in the flavors, the kind of sweet, musky smell, if you smell that around in a bathroom, it could be that. It could be perfume. It could be the school soap dispenser. It could be aftershave lotion. It is difficult to detect and tell, but once you've smelled it yourself, you kind of get a sense of it and you know what it is. If you come across something that looks like a USB and it's smaller and it has a magnetized device inside of it, it's probably not math homework. You know, so you want to familiarize yourself with the USB itself and what it looks like, because they could be vaping devices. So that's kind of like the products, okay? Any questions on the products? Yeah.
Can you still vape when you're a teen if you have adult supervision?
Can you vape if you're a teen and you have adult supervision? I would say that the adults should be telling you not to vape because it's not good for your body.
Okay, because I used to have a phone before I broke it, and I looked something up online. Can you vape when you're 14 with adult supervision? And I said yes.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's nothing illegal about it, but it's not good for your body. Any other questions about the products? So what about the industry? We know that the tobacco industry spent billions of dollars, right, hooking people on nicotine in for the past 50 years. You just all raised your hands, many of you, to show people in your family that were affected by tobacco-related diseases and illness. The same thing is happening now with the industry, except they're using social media to target young people, using Instagram, Snapchat, and spending billions of dollars on advertising that make it look fun, sexy, appealing, just like they did certainly when I was growing up. You can see all my gray hair. On Saturday mornings, cartoons, there was an ad for cigarettes between every cartoon, and it hooked millions of people. The same thing is true for using social media, except that even with social media, these companies like the Juul don't even have to advertise themselves constantly, because they're relying on kids to take pictures of themselves using their Juul products and then sharing those on social media. So that do not only get their own advertising, but then they get all the advertising that the kids share and make it look cool, right? Cool is the #1 adjective here. If you can have a device that gives you a hit of nicotine that looks really sleek and fancy and is the latest thing, like having an iPhone 10. Who doesn't want an iPhone 10, right? The latest high-tech device. That's what it's like to have a Juul. It's the newest thing. And it makes it look fun and sexy. Lots of advertising, making these products sweet, cheap, and easy to get. And in the tobacco industry in 2009 went to the government and said, we'd like to make flavored cigarettes. And the government said, no. We're not going to let you make flavored cigarettes. That's the good news. The bad news is that they said, well, but you can keep menthol as a flavor. And the public health community said, no, don't let them do that. But the government let them keep mint and menthol. So most high school youth like mint. That's the most popular flavor. And menthol is associated with a greater intake into the body, right, of either combustible cigarettes in menthol cigarettes or in vaping devices, the mint, because you can draw it deeper into your lungs. People who use menthol combustible cigarettes, they draw it deeper into their lungs and they have higher rates of cancer, lung disease, because of the menthol and drawing it into their lungs. The tobacco industry targets certain populations of people, especially people of color, to use menthol products. In the combustible cigarettes, Cools, Newports had lots of advertising targeting populations of color. Mint, again, is the product that is targeted toward young people. So, what do we know about the price of these devices? So they're cheap, they're sweet, and they're easy to get. So the price, if you look at the price, back when in 2018, when this epidemic was starting, many youth could go online because the age restrictions hadn't been put into place that have been since January. And with the coupons that the companies were giving out, could buy a Juul device for as low as a couple dollars. If you have a gift card from Grandma or Aunt Sally that you got at Christmas time last year in 2018, you could go online, you could buy these products very easily because there was no age restriction online. You put in a birth date. Are you 18? Click yes. You put in your address, hit click. FedEx, UPS delivers the product to the house. Johnny's at home, maybe Mom and Dad are at work, and they get the Juul kit at home, okay? That was a big problem. Now Juul has come in only because the FDA put pressure on them back starting in January to put age restrictions on their online sales, okay? And here in Massachusetts, our Attorney General, Maura Healey, has gone after all the online sales and said you can't sell to youth online here in Massachusetts. And so those have been stopped. So where do you get these products? In any convenience store, any gas station, any mini mart, any mom and pop store, in a community that hasn't already restricted these sales. And lots of advertising. There's restrictions that can be put into place that restrict the sale of these products. So in Massachusetts, you may have known that in January of this year, the age went up to 21, that you can only purchase products here in Massachusetts if you're over the age of 21. So it went up from 18 to 21, right? Everybody knows that. Tobacco is no longer being able to be sold in a pharmacy statewide. That was town by town. Each town voted whether, through the boards of health, whether or not to have pharmacy ban or raise the age to 21. When enough communities passed that, then the legislators took it up and passed it as a statewide law, okay? So now the FDA is coming in and saying they're going to ban, not just restrict, but ban all flavored tobacco sales. Well, they've been saying this for about 2 years now. We'll see if they actually put it into place. As you've seen in the news, there's been several hundred people that have been hospitalized recently, including teenagers because of using vaping devices. A couple of deaths now because of the use of these products. So yesterday, the Trump administration said they were going to ban these products. Well, he says a lot of things. We'll see if this actually goes into place. But in Massachusetts, we're not waiting for the FDA to pass regulations. 150 communities have already put into place what's called a flavor restriction. It restricts all the sale of these flavored products, including smokeless, chew, everything except combustible cigarettes, to an adult-only retail shop, which means a vape shop or a tobacconist. So that gets rid of all the sales in the town from teens. So really quickly, there's information on the getoutrage.org website, and there's information back here on the table. Your school administrator, Mr. McCormick, the nurse, all have the same information. You want to talk to your kids, mostly, and talk to them about these facts that I talked to you about tonight. Go over the truth and the myths about these products, especially that the industry is targeting them to get hooked on nicotine. There's a high school group that works on this. We'd like to see one started here. There's new vaping cessation information that I just shared with the school nurse. And finally, the most important thing is what can you do in your town to see if there is a restriction on these products. Here in Northbridge, you can go on the website, Make Smoking History. There's a drop-down menu. You put in your town and you can see the policies that are in place or not in place. So that's important because you can restrict them. Then there's new campaigns aimed at teens. It's called Different Products, Same Dangers. It came out in June. We're going to relaunch it at the end of September. We want them to associate vaping with cigarettes and understand that they're addictive and they can harm your brain. There's a state organization, Tobacco Free Mass, that anybody can join in advocacy against the industry and to get statewide laws passed. And there's my contact information. We have a minute or two for questions. Any other questions? Okay, great. Thank you.